Okay, a brief summary of the grade 10 quadratic functions. That's the formula that we use in grade 10. And the Q represents the vertical shift, the Y-intercept. It also gives you the axis of symmetry and the turning point. So it's really easy if you get this formula for a quadratic function. The A value tells us whether it's happy, positive, or sad, negative. It also tells us how wide the parabola is. The bigger the number, the thinner the parabola. The smaller the number, the wider the parabola. When you sketch them, you need to cover these things. But remember that the turning point and the axis of symmetry are pretty much covered in the Y-intercept. So when you're doing the Y-intercept, you're just reading off your Q value and you're plotting it as 0 and that Q value for your Y. For the X-intercept, you've got to do a calculation. You've got to let Y equal 0 and solve for X. Reminder, when you are square rooting, you must put a plus and minus by your answer because you need to get out two answers for your X-intercepts. Write down the points. That is a really useful tip. For the basic graph interpretation, when you are given a graph, either one that you've drawn or one that is given to you that you've got to then interpret, the domain is how far left and right, and the range is how far up and down. It's always that for these parabolas at the moment, and the range goes from the turning point down or from the turning point up. Make sure you revise how to write it in set builder or interval notation, whatever works for you. Your minimum or maximum value will be the Y value that is the turning point. So you'll just simply read it off the graph and you'll be able to say what the minimum or maximum value of the function is. When they ask you the values for which a function is increasing or decreasing, you're going to use the ruler test. So you're going to slide it from left to right and you're going to see when is that function going up or down, and for what X values does it go up and down. Make sure that you remember to use the X values. For the point of intersection, either you're going to read it off the graph the way it is, or you are going to calculate it algebraically. For that, you're going to equate the two graphs, so that's going to become equal to that, and you're going to solve for X. Remember, when you get your two X values out, they are the X coordinates of the 2 points of intersection, and you don't have the Y points yet. You still need to get them by putting back into the formula and getting your answers out. When you're finding the equation, what you've got to do is get an A value and you've got to get a Q value. If, for example, you're given the turning point and another point which has values X and Y, you're going to sub them in where the Q value is the turning point, the Y value of the Q point is the turning point, goes into Q, and then the other point you put into X and Y. When you put that in and you substitute, you get out an answer for A. Your final answer needs to be Y equals a number for A with the X squared and a number for Q. If you're given two intercepts and a point, then you're going to use a special formula which you need to learn off by heart. You're going to plug in the X-intercept, so -2 and 2 or whatever they are. You're going to plug in the point X and Y for X. They'll both go in there. That'll be the same number, and Y. And with all of those numbers in place, A will be the only variable. You will then solve for A. You'll have A, which means you need to then multiply it in and finally come out with an answer that looks like that.